Welcome to the Voices of the Goddess podcast. We believe that there is a goddess inside each and every one of us. When we use our voice to share that goddess, we support and uplift each other. Join us each week as we interview women to receive the message of their goddess within. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Voices of the Goddess podcast, where we empower, inspire, and uplift women to become the goddesses they are meant to be. I am Julietta, the magical PT and co-host of this super fun podcast. I'm also a physical therapist down here in today is what is cloudy Fort Lauderdale.
We got thunder going on here,
right? But I'm originally from Wisconsin, a good old Midwestern girl, but I've lived down in Florida for 20 plus years, and my purpose of being here on the planet is to support people in their healing journeys, which I do through physical therapy, through my artwork, and through this podcast, and I'm joined here with my amazing partner in crime, Allyson.
Hello, everybody. And my name is Allyson Mancini. I'm a holistic nutritionist. And like Julietta, I'm also a Midwest girl at heart from Michigan originally. But I've also been down here in South Florida for a very long time, 28, almost 29 years. And I am the mom to two amazing adult children, a 24-year-old and a 22-year-old, and I'll be married for 28 years on Friday, which is only less than 48 hours away for those of you that are in real time right now. And my passion really is helping women stay as well as they possibly can through their nutrition. So it is a lot of experience of my own. My daughter has had health challenges all her life. My son went through some challenges. I personally went through some challenges myself and really know the power of good nutrition. And so that is my passion now, to share that with other busy moms so that they can make sure that their families and families after them and their legacy, that they're learning how to take care of themselves with food. So, Julietta, it's been a little stressful this last year and a half, I would say. I mean, it's been, you and I have this conversation all the time. Like, this has been a really hard year and a half for a lot of people. And it has been hard for myself. I know for you in some ways too. We've gone through transitions and had to kind of go different directions and things. But it's also had a lot of really good things. But the hard part, I think, has been for me personally, and because I have dealt with depression and anxiety since I was probably, when I look back at it, probably since I was in my teens. I really started having problems like major anxiety and panic attacks in college. And then going forward, I suffered postpartum after my children, and just on and off with seasons of life have struggled. But I think the isolation factor that we've been dealing with for the last year and a half, not to mention I'm an empty nester also recently, newly. Well, it's not been that new, but it feels new. And, just a change of season of life has really had me struggling lately. And I feel like people don't, I know people talk about mental health, but I don't feel like people talk about how many people really struggle with mental health and how a struggle it has been for this last year and a half. And I was recently heard from a relative that social media, especially for a lot of these younger people, has really made it a big struggle and a big hurdle over the last year and a half, even more so than it was before. So I just really, I don't know, not really sure how to work through all that all the time.
Well, and I think the important thing is doing what you're doing right now and sharing, because so many people, I think there still is some stigma attached to it. Yeah. And so people want to, hide it from everybody. And, because it's not the cool thing to share. Like, hey, I just got a new car, or,
hey, I've got some depression going on.
But I think it's so important that the more we share what we're all going through, so like people know they're not alone. Trust me, if you think you're not alone, you're not alone.
Yeah. If you think you're alone, you're not alone.
There's this Italian song, like nobody will know this on the few Italians listening, but there's an Italian singer called Giovanotti, and he has a song called Fango, which means mud. But the lyrics of the song say that I know that I'm not alone even when I am alone. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of us have experienced time where we are physically alone, but, I think and there's so many venues for this, that we can create connection even when we physically can't be together. And, if more people were just open about, which is why we do this, and we share a lot about ourselves here, just for everyone to know that whatever you're going through, you aren't alone. There are other people going through what you're going through. And if you share this information, people will step up and help each other and support each other. And, I feel very fortunate. I don't really suffer with any kind of mental health issues. I mean, maybe I've had some mild depression and mild anxiety in my life, but nothing that's like interfered with my function, as I've seen other people suffer through. And but it is, all of these things are way more common than anyone thinks. And
I think the frustrating part of someone that deals with it is you're frustrated that you're like, you see it, it's there, and you just want it to stop. Like that, at least for me, that's it. Like when I look back over the last couple of months, I've seen this kind of creeping up and knew it was coming. And really the last couple of weeks, I was like, oh, like this is not like and I think that's the frustrating part. Everything is going so well and things look well, but you just can't seem to like get yourself straight. But with that said, and this is why I'm saying this, is one of the lessons that I learned recently, and I don't know if it's been my friendship with you or talking with just so many different people now on this podcast and in our interactions, is that I literally told you and two of my other good friends, like straight up texted you guys, like, I'm really struggling right now. I've been just really down lately. And the response that I have gotten has been incredible. Instead of a year or so ago, I wouldn't have said a word to anybody, not even to my own husband. I would have just kind of kept going and just ignored it and kind of pretended like it wasn't there until it finally worked itself out. So I think lesson learned is that you need to be open about it and share it. And that's kind of part of the reason why I want to come on here. Like I just have seen so much lately on social media with young people, older people, everybody is, the anxiety and the depression and the fear is just so great right now. And I feel like we just need to be open about it and reach out to someone, get support, talk to somebody, whether it's a professional or a good friend or your spouse or partner or whoever. So that's all. That's my thing today. All right, should we bring on our guest? Because she's sitting there so patiently waiting. She's so sweet.
Let's bring her on.
All right, Julie, here we go. Hi, Julie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here today. So I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience. Tell them a little bit about you, who you are, what you do.
Sure. I'm Julie Biederman.
Anything you'd like to share?
Sure. I'm Julie Biederman. I too am in now rainy Fort Lauderdale. Originally from New York. So I'm a Northeast gal, but I have been here decades, and we'll just leave it at that. For about 25 years, I've been in healthcare my entire career. For about 25 years, I was the practice administrator for a medical practice, a group medical practice throughout Dade and Broward counties in South Florida. And through that experience and seeing people, young people, senior citizens coming into our medical practice and crying or despondent because they didn't understand how their plan worked, how Medicare worked, how any of this worked. And out of frustration, they would just stand in the middle of the waiting room and cry. Mm-hmm. And it literally broke my heart. And I would try and help as many people as I could while in that practice. But those experiences have directly led me to what I do today, which I am an independent licensed health agent specializing in health insurance for individuals and Medicare. Medicare is like my baby. I love educating people that are aging into Medicare or qualify for Medicare through disability. It's extraordinarily confusing. People make tremendous mistakes, and there are ramifications to the decisions that people make, and they don't even know what they are. Yeah. And that is, it's become my life's mission to not have any client that I ever work with stand in the middle of a doctor's office crying. So that is how I came to do what I do, and I love it, and I'm extraordinarily passionate about it.
And I think it's awesome because I have the experience. My mother moved in with us 6 years ago. She does not live with us now, but she lived with us for about a year. And at that time, because she was coming from Michigan to Florida, she had Medicare, but didn't have any supplemental. So she was spending a fortune on her prescriptions and stuff like that. And we had the pleasure, because I did not know Julie at the time, I was working with the person in San Juanita's chapter. She helped us work my mom through that whole process. And I'll never forget when she came over and sat down with my mom and I was like, oh my, like this is a lot it's a lot of information, and to decide what is best. So to have someone like you, or like the woman that I dealt with, to guide the, older people through that, I think is so key. Because the time my mom was she was in her late 70s, and it was very confusing, and she didn't really follow a lot of it. And so I appreciate what you do, and I love that you're passionate about it, because I feel like in our society, we don't take care of our elderly as well as we should. And yeah.
I completely agree. Every time I sit down with people, and I work with people from every socioeconomic background, but funny thing, when I was working with a gentleman who was retiring, who was the president of a bank, he said, I'm typically a pretty smart guy. Mm-hmm. I really understand things. I could dig in and I could figure things out. He said, I have never felt more stupid in my entire life. He's like, now I understand, but before you sat down and broke it all down for me, I didn't know what any of the terminology was. I didn't know what the ramifications of my decisions were. So that's what I love about being independent. I'm not married to any insurance company.
Right.
So based on my prior knowledge working in private practice, I do have some that I do like more than others for various reasons. And I'm able to utilize that knowledge and helping people make the right decision. But at the end of the day, what I tell every client I work with, this is not about me.
Yeah.
This is 100% about you, your life, and what you want from your healthcare. Not today, perhaps not today, maybe not even tomorrow, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when you're no longer in the same health condition that you currently are.
Right. Well, I appreciate what you do. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Are you ready for your first question?
I'm ready.
All right, girl. What is your superpower?
So it's certainly not like flying or anything like that. I'm petrified of heights, so that was not going to be it. So I think it's a non-traditional type of a superpower. And really, it's two kind of melded into one. Perseverance and resilience, I feel, are my superpowers. I will just keep marching forward, no matter what the roadblocks are, and just resilient. I have gone through many challenges throughout my life, and you just get knocked down and you got to stand back up and take the next step. And so after thinking about it, those really are the two things that I think truly define me.
Yeah, no, those are amazing superpowers because perseverance is necessary a lot of the time. And not everybody is, for sure. Not everyone is that way.
No. And starting my own business at 50 was certainly challenging. But I think the passion that I feel about what I do helped. But then starting with 0 clients and building that into an actual business took both of those superpowers, because if you don't have either of those, I would sink pretty quickly. And the last thing I wanted to do after breaking free of working for somebody else was have to go back with my head hung and take a job from somebody. So I was quite determined to make this work in whatever way I can.
That's what it was that when you and I talked, was that you left that part out, which is, I think, really important for our audience to hear, is you completely started your own business at the age of 50. Because I will tell you, a year ago, and Julietta knows this, my excuse a year ago to not go into holistic nutrition was, I'm going to be 50. And she was like, so what? Like, okay, you're going to be 50. Great. Like, do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. I just need to do this. So that's, good for you. Kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you. I remember I was driving to work one day and I kept thinking, gee, I can't wait to retire. And I was about 48, 49. And I'm like, this is an awful way to go through life, wishing the next 15, 17 years of my life away. And I said, I must make a change. And I went into high gear trying to figure out how to utilize the knowledge that I have into a business.
Good for you.
So that's it. Those are my superpowers.
They're awesome.
Thank you.
Good for you and good for you. Like both of you. Proud of you for taking that leap at 50. I mean, I've been doing my career for 30 years, but last year in the middle of the pandemic, I decided I just wanted to be a solo practitioner and fired my business partner, fired my staff, and went out on my own. And, it goes back to that whole conversation. Age is just a number. And if you're not loving what you're doing and, finding passion in it, for something else, it's never too late.
Never too late. I look at the Rolling Stones that are dancing around the stage in their 70s. I mean, come on.
Oh, I saw Aerosmith perform the November before we went into the pandemic. So that would be 2019. I was at a charity function that they were performing at, and I literally was, I don't know, probably 10 feet, if that, from Steven Tyler. He's like almost 80, I think, 75, 76 at the time, which was like 2-3 years ago. And I was like, freaking awesome.
Yes.
And he performed an entire set, the whole deal. I'm like, that is awesome. And I'm not a huge Aerosmith fan, but I was like, I give kudos to anyone who can do that.
I'm not sure, but I think he's had a knee replacement too.
I think he has too. But that's incredible that he can do that. So yeah.
Him and Mick Jagger dancing
there you go.
On stage.
Yep. Gosh, I hope I'm still doing. I will. I have my physical therapist. I'll still be doing that. Right. All right, Julie. So question number 2 is what is a book? It could be 2 if you can't decide, but a book that has most influenced you in your life.
So in my younger years, I wasn't much of a reader, I'm sorry to say. So as I was getting older, I discovered the joy of fiction and a book that really resonated me. I'm sure it impacted me in several ways, but the name of the book is called The Red Tent.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if anybody has heard of that book or read that book, but it's historical fiction. So
I've heard of it. I have never read it.
It's biblical characters. It is not a religious book, not even a tiny little bit. But it's so typically in the Bible, it's all about the men. This book was about, while the men were doing the manly things, what were the women doing? And the Red Tent is where they gathered each month. It's where they had, where they gave birth. And it really focuses on the bond and sisterhood of women. And I have found this in my personal life, that if you have a good group or a pod of women that you can trust, count on, lean on in times of trouble, and of course laugh and have a great time with, and when things are good, it really is it's very life-changing. And what I loved the bond of the women in this book, even though this was back in like the Old Testament times. So this was quite a while ago, but the women still had the same thoughts that women have today. They still had jealousy. They still felt love. They still had all of the emotion that we experience now. So although this was from a time period so long ago, it really did resonate with me, truly, because of the bond of the sisterhood of the women. And they described it as a magical bond between women. And I think it's a great book. I recommend it to anyone that hasn't read it, especially for women. And it's fiction. We don't know if any of this is true, but probably not. But it's a great read.
And there are, and we've had past guests on as well, there are modern day versions of the Red Tent, and there's a lot of women's groups that, call themselves the Red Tent Society or whatever. And it is, about, women honoring women and supporting each other and honoring the sacred feminine and the cycles of life. And, I think nowadays more than ever, there's this need to connect to all of that. So
I agree. I have an anecdote. A very good friend of mine lost her son. And of course, that was a devastating loss. And this group of women that I'm very close with, we all kind of gathered around her, literally and metaphorically gathered around her. And then another friend of ours labeled us the whales, because in whale pods in the ocean, when the mother whale loses a child, or something goes wrong, or there's a death or an illness in the whale pod, all the females in the pod gather around the one female that's hurting. And that's how they travel until this whale, is able to continue on her own. So we named ourselves the whales, not because we gained a lot of weight, but but for the pod aspect of the friendship that we all have. So
elephants do the same thing. Female elephants call them elephant sisters. Yeah, same idea, which I think is amazing. That it happens in nature and with mammals. And yeah, I've never read the Red Tent. I have to read it now.
It's a really good. It's a quick read.
I just keep adding to my list of books. Can you see?
I know, because we need more books on our list.
I moved recently, and the last items to be unpacked were my 2 big boxes of books. I just can't part with them.
I love books. I have a problem, but it's okay. It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem.
Yeah. All right. Question number 3, and this is a question that, we really encourage all of the women we know to make sure that they are practicing this regularly. And it is, what is your favorite way to take care of you? And we decided we need to change it from calling it self-care to self-love, because it's really about loving yourself. But how do you like to incorporate that in your life?
There's a couple of different ways, I think, other than just vegging out and laying on the couch. That's always fun. But 2 different things. Honestly, exercising in any form is something that makes me feel good. Not necessarily because I'm on a diet or anything like that. It just gives me the endorphins that I need, and I always feel better. Mm-hmm. Even if it's something small, just movement makes me feel better. Mm-hmm. And then being at the beach. We're fortunate enough to live on a coast mm-hmm. and close to the beach. Just staring at the vastness of the ocean and listening to the waves just does something to my soul that is very healing. During COVID, that was the one activity that I would try to do regularly, is just take a chair, just a lawn chair, and drag myself to the beach and just sit there by myself, outdoors, smelling the salt air, listening to the ocean. And it definitely helped. Even when it was cool out, I would put a sweater on, or hot out, I would, put a bathing suit on or bring my lunch, and I would sit there for hours when I was able to. So those are 2 very different, but
all good. So Julietta, you have to, because I can never remember, what is it about the water, the ocean water?
No, the negative ions.
There we go.
That's why people are drawn to live near the ocean. And, it's the same thing as I've a cajillion salt lamps, like in my little office here. I think I have 5 of them. And they put off negative ions. My treatment table puts off negative ions, but the ocean massively creates negative ions. So it's very healing for, it's like, you think about it like, yeah, it feels good to be there, but it physically is actually healing for the body to be there. So it's no wonder that people are drawn to that.
I know. I need to I have my salt lamp. It's back there. You can't see it. It's in the corner. I don't even have it on. I need to start turning my salt lamp on.
Mine, I never turn them off. They are on 24/7.
I know.
In my office, in my home, they're always on.
Yeah.
There's no need to turn them off.
All right.
They're not sucking that much electricity.
No, they're not. You're right.
They're it's a little
nightlight bulb. I know.
Yes.
All right. So question number 4, last question. And this was something, I apologize. The dog has his toy. Can you hear him doing that? Sorry.
I'm a dog person, so.
Julietta, I'm going to let you take over right now.
So our last question, and this came out of, we researched, the women that we are hoping to serve here before we created the podcast. And the big thing that they all struggle with and want support with is accountability. So how do you create accountability? Especially like you as new business owners, a lot of stuff got to happen to make that happen. How do you create the accountability, get stuff done?
Well, there's two different sides to this for me. The first side was, it was the way I was going to eventually make a living. So if I didn't take action and do the activities that were needed to do, meaning to talk to and get out at the time before COVID, and meet with as many people as possible, I was going to fail. So failure was a big driver for me. And now that I have, thankfully, several hundred clients, I'm quite accountable to those clients to be there. And I tell every client, make sure you have my number in your phone. And this way, when you have a question or you receive something in the mail that you don't understand, or you're standing in a doctor's office and they're telling you something that doesn't sound quite right, or you get a bill and you're unsure, reach out to me. So I feel that I am very accountable to the clients that I now have, not only for financial reasons, but in my mind for moral reasons. You know, these are people that I have committed to taking care of, so to speak. And I am very serious about that aspect of my business. And even before a lot of these people became clients, I kept thinking to myself, just keep giving information, give your knowledge, give whatever you have to these people or anybody who needs it, because I just think giving and giving and giving will eventually create a return. So the accountability is to myself to make a living and to my clients who I've made promises to.
Yeah. I feel like it's so, you like hit the nail on the head about the giving part. Like that is such a huge component. And I think we're lacking a lot of that from people. Everybody's about what they want and not what they can give. And it's so true. And I can probably say this because we're all in BNI too. And
Yes.
BNI's big motto is givers gain. And that does, but that is honestly, when I first went to a BNI meeting, that was one of the things that resonated so big with me, was that they had this givers gain motto. And not to say that every single member follows it to the T or anything, but it truly is. And Julietta and I talk about it all the time. What you put out into the universe, what you put out there is what you're going to get back. So if you, Julie, have been putting out all these good vibes and this good information and truly passionate and wanting to help people, of course it's going to come back to you tenfold. So I have a question for you. I have two questions for you. How long have you been on your own with your own business? And secondly, did you join BNI before or after that?
I've been in business for 6 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I had heard about BNI.
Okay.
And I knew it was a pretty powerful way to meet other people that are in business and network and create relationships, which really is the key to having people trust you to send business to you.
Right.
So I got my license, I got contracted, and then I joined a BNI group.
Awesome.
Pretty quickly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, almost immediately.
All right. All right, Julietta, do you have a takeaway?
And my takeaway is, and I talked about this before and I haven't acted on it, so it's time to act on it. But almost all the books I read all the time are nonfiction.
I know,
and it's time to do some fiction reading, because there's it's like, yes, I'm always working on myself and trying to improve, and sometimes you get to just read for enjoyment, just entertainment purposes, not necessarily to change anything or grow anything or whatever. So that's my takeaway. I'm going to get a fiction book and just enjoy it.
Yeah, I made the mistake of trying to read a fiction book after I watched the whole series of the show, and that didn't go over very well. So, I know. I was trying. Anyways, okay, my takeaway is, so when we first moved to South Florida, being a Michigander, I was super excited to be by the beach. Like, I couldn't wait. So we lived by the beach. We lived in Deerfield Beach, east of Federal. We would ride our bikes to the beach. I used to go to the beach all the time. I can't even tell you the last time I was at the beach because now I live out west. Out west in South Florida is very far, according to those Easterners. We're all the way in the boonies. I'm west of the Turnpike, which makes me really out west. And my takeaway is I need to start going to the beach. Like Nick and I could just go over to the beach and have dinner and go for a walk on the beach, like because it feels good. And I know the benefit of it, but you forget how good it really does feel when you're there. I don't want to go to the beach now. It's a little too hot, but once it cools down, I'll go to the beach.
Especially now you got no kids at home that you got to worry about. Like
early evening is really nice.
I know.
And it's not that hot.
And I remember that from when we lived in Deerfield. I remember we would go have dinner. We would go ride our bikes over the beach. It was great. So I need to do that. All right, Julie, what's your takeaway?
So after learning the benefits of the ocean, thank you, Julietta, I have salt lamps, and now I'm going to make sure that I get more and have them in each room in my house so that even when I'm not at the beach, I can still have the benefit of the beach. So as soon as we are done, I'm going to order more salt lamps and put them in every room in my house because I love them. And now at least I understand what the benefit of them is. So thank you.
Yeah, I have them in every room in my house and they're just not turned on. So my motto, as soon as I finish this, I'm going to turn them all on.
I promise to turn them on when I get them.
Nice. I love it.
All right. You want to wrap us up, Julietta?
Sure. Well, first, thank you, Julie, so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you here. And thank you to our audience for listening and everything we talked about. And if you need help with Medicare, Julie's contact information will be in the show notes. And I also invite you to subscribe, like, share, follow. Invite your friends to join us. And if you're interested in being a guest, visit our websites, votgpodcast.com. You can fill out a form there to reach out to us and get to be a guest on our show. We'd love to have you. And I wish everyone a magical day.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. It was a pleasure. We'll see you. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.